Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners for a regular meeting for June 16th, 2014. As a reminder, if you have a cell phone or mobile device on you, please at this time put it on silent or vibrate so that it doesn't go off during the meeting. We would appreciate it. This meeting is broadcast live tonight on Channel 22, so please keep that in mind as we go through the evening. At this time, we are happy to welcome Boy Scout Troop 704 from Roberta United Methodist Church to present our colors. Please rise.
Color guard advance. Color guard prepare to post colors. Color guard post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard retreat. Color guard advance.
At this time, I'd like to welcome Chaplain Bernie Lowe's from the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Department to please join us with an invocation.
Good evening. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Gracious and Heavenly Father, Lord God, we just thank you for another day, another opportunity to just be on this earth, Father, and enjoy the creations you've given us, enjoy the air that you breathe, the food that you supply to us in your common grace. And Father, we just come here this evening, we'll do as Paul commanded Timothy to do, to offer up prayers and intercessions for those in authority over us, that we might live godly and quiet lives. Father, we know that you raise up leaders and you take them down, and the heart of the leaders are like rivers in your hands, and you turn them to wherever you may want them to go. And Father, our prayer tonight is this board comes to meet to preside over the business of this county. You have ordained civil government to rule over your creation in a good and godly order. Father, I just pray now that you give them wisdom and discernment as they tackle some of these matters tonight, Father, that they do this without respect for a person and without political expedience, but do it to the honor and glory of the only living God, the Father of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain, for joining us tonight. And I'd also like to ask the members of the Boy Scout Troop 704, please come forward. We'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. I know you're happy that school's out. So if you'll do me a favor, tell us your name and tell us what rank you are, or tell us your name, what school you go to, what grade you're in, and what is one thing that you like best about scouting.
Nicholas Zambuto. Peter and Brandy Zambuto. I'm a freshman at Hickory Ridge High School, and I like all the camping trips that we go on.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Burridge over here has a pen for you. Hello.
Hello.
Your name?
Samuel Ross Wiktorek.
What school do you go to?
Currently homeschooled.
Okay. And what grade are you in?
8th.
8th grade. Going into 8th, or you just finished the 8th?
Almost
or is that a trick
finished
question?
With the 8th.
Okay. What do you like best about scouting? What's your favorite thing about scouting?
About getting badges.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Ethan Sahanoff. My parents are Matt and Dana Sahanoff. I'm going to the 8th grade and I attend Winkler Middle. And my favorite thing about scouting is the group activities.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Daniel Zambuto. My parents are Peter and Brandy Zambuto. I attend Hickory Ridge Middle School, going into the 8th grade. And my favorite thing about scouting is the influence that it has on scouts.
Great, thank you.
My name is Dawson Hagg. My parents are Dan and Sarah Hagg. I attend Hickory Ridge Middle School. I'm going into 8th grade. Favorite thing about scouting is learning new stuff and being able to do this stuff.
Great, thank you very much. We appreciate all of you coming out tonight, and we appreciate your leaders that spend so much time helping you guys have fun and learn at the same time. So thank you all very much. Commissioners, the first thing on the agenda is approval or correction of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next we have the agenda. There are some changes to the agenda. This time I would accept a motion to approve the agenda,
Chairman
including
Poole,
the changes. Yes, sir?
I would like to make a motion to move consent agenda item number 3 down to new business to discuss the PowerPoint presentation that was given to us this afternoon.
Okay. If we could make that new business item number 4 and then shift everything down one, if that's okay. Okay. Okay, at this time, I'd accept you made the motion to approve the agenda with the change, correct? Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we begin with recognitions and presentations. And the first thing we have is from Active Living and Parks Department. Donnie Broom is here. And Londa, are you going to come up too? And
Good evening, and thank you all for this opportunity. I'd like to ask Donnie Broom, who is the chairman of the Active Living and Parks Commission, to come forward and make the presentation to Purdue Farms. Also, if John and Rogers and Celia would come up, please.
John Rogers contacted the Active Living and Parks Department in 2009 asking if there was a project their company could work on. John Rogers is a human resource manager and has worked with the staff of Cabarrus County Parks to get this project set up. The first year, approximately 45 employees and family members volunteered and cleaned the streams, lake shores, and anywhere there was debris in the park. Clean water was an interest for Purdue. They worked from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. The same practice has been continued each year since 2009. Mr. Rogers and Perry Gabriel coordinated the schedule each Saturday for the team to come to Franklin Park and work on this project. Each year, there are approximately 40 to 45 employees and family members at Franklin Park working 9 a.m. to 12 noon. That has added up to approximately 615 hours. Using the independent sector value of a volunteer time of $21.04 for North Carolina, the volunteer hours that Purdue Farm employees and family members have contributed equates to $12,939. And at this time, we'd like to show our respect and give them a little token of our appreciation to John Rogers and Celia Vargas. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
Very good picture.
thank you very much. It's great to have companies that are willing to take an interest in the community that you live and work in, and we appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Okay, now we have an Eagle Scout project.
Yes. The Active Living and Parks Department is contacted on a regular basis from scouts asking if there's something they could do for their Eagle Scout project. Some have a project in mind and others just ask us for something that can be done. This year, Zach Haig from Troop 704 of Roberta Methodist Church worked with Ben Sharp at the Franklin Park to construct garden plots in the existing community park garden. The community park garden was developed with the Blue Cross and Blue Shield grant and the Cabarrus County Masters Gardeners and the Summer Day Camp participants over the last 2 years. Zach provided all the materials that were either donated or purchased through his fundraising efforts. He worked with Byron Hegler and Ben Sharp along with 25 volunteers to build the 16 plots. Each plot was 5 by 10 raised area. Volunteers consisting of Scout members, Scout Master, parents, and church members followed Zach's directions and built the plots Saturday, March the 8th. Zach was honored on May the 24th by the Boy Scouts of America for completing all necessary requirements to become an Eagle Scout. The 25 volunteers worked 6 hours for a total of 150 hours, and this comes to a contribution of $3,156 to Cabarrus County. At this time, we'd like to call up Zach and recognize him.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hey, Zach, you don't get off that easy. Sorry. I let Mr. Rogers get out that easy, but you don't get out that easy. You have way too many badges and everything else. So why did you pick this for a project? What made this appealing to you?
I'm into the agriculture field with everything, and I first talked to Ben asking for a project, and he gave me a few options, and that just fit me for my personality, so that's what I went for.
Which school do you go to?
Hickory Ridge High.
And what grade are you going into?
I'll be a senior.
Well, congratulations and thank you very much.
No, thank you.
For this, the third item, Alan Thompson, if you will come forward, please. And Commissioner Burridge is going to come down with you.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to represent the American Heart Association in recognizing Cabarrus County EMS for their excellence in care. They have been awarded recognition by the 2014 Mission Lifeline EMS recognition program. This is focused on the excellent care that Cabarrus County EMS provides to patients experiencing symptoms of heart attack. And they have linked together with their receiving hospitals to achieve excellent times to treatment in this time-critical illness. So my pleasure to award this certificate to the Cabarrus County EMS agency.
Thank you very much. Alan, do you want to add anything on that?
Basically what the program is about is it's a partnership between the American Heart Association, the local hospitals, to develop a system of care to reduce the time to treatment to patients experiencing a heart attack. Cabarrus County EMS received the Silver Award. This is the first year they've done it. Next year, as long as we're able to maintain the current level of performance, we should be eligible for the Gold Award. And basically what the award is based on is how quickly we're able to provide information to the hospital, our accuracy in identifying heart attack in the field, communicating the appropriate information to the hospital that basically allows the patient to bypass the emergency department and go straight to the cardiac catheterization lab. And as Dr. Garvey will share, I mean, that time is muscle, and the focus is on reduced door to treatment time, and that's what it's about. And I have to applaud our staff, our leadership, our county leadership, our hospital leadership, because what it says is that together as a system, we're focused on doing what's best for the patient, and that doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen with just an EMS service or a hospital. It happens because of the climate that's been enabled by this county, by CMC Northeast and Carolinas Healthcare System, and by the excellent field paramedics that we have out there who take it personal and make it their passion to provide the best care. So thank you, Dr. Garvey, thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, County Leadership.
Well, thank you to everybody in your department. And now we want to recognize a retirement from EMS. If you want to call up Mr. Fox, there you go.
Sergeant Jeff Fox began his career in public safety as a volunteer in the early 1980s before coming to Cabarrus County in 1989. And he's risen through the ranks as an EMT, as a paramedic, as a crew chief, and as a field training officer in his 25-year career as he answered his calling to becoming a pre-hospital professional, making a difference in lives one patient at a time. For many years, he also served as team leader of our special operations team and was instrumental in building a response efficiency at major events such as Charlotte Motor Speedway and other specialty response situations such as water rescue, tactical medicine, and a host of others. He's been active in disaster planning, disaster exercises, communication systems, and field training. And he also served as a tactical medic support member for one of the local police agencies. The thing about Sergeant Fox is that you always know where you stand with him. He's a one of a kind. I would describe him as a leader with a foundation in common sense. In other words, he knew what needed to be done, and he made it happen, no matter what that took, often with a lot of sacrifice of his own time, sacrificing his life. He lived, breathed EMS, and really, he embodies what it means to be an EMS professional. He accepted that calling as a way of life, and he knew what it took to get the job done. So today we celebrate Sergeant Fox's transition to retirement. We acknowledge his service and we wish him the best. We also thank his family. His daughter and wife are with him today for the commitment and sacrifice they made in supporting him over these 25 years. So Jeff, what I invite you to do today is to understand what you've done. You've been instrumental in the building of a foundation in this organization from which we can grow into the future. Your commitment, your passion, and your determination have made a difference. You leave a mark not only on Cabarrus County EMS, but also the entire public safety system. So today we say thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fox, on behalf of this commission board and the citizens of Cabarrus County, we want to wish you the best. Thank you for your years of service, and have a great retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank y'all. It's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure serving the citizens of Cabarrus County for many years, and these guys are great. Thank you.
Is there anything you're going to do in retirement that...
Stay out of trouble. Good luck.
My motto is, if you can't do that, run fast.
Right now, I can't do much of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next recognition is pretty exciting to announce to the community. So if the members of the Carolina Tar Wheels will come forward, we want to recognize you. You want to talk? Go ahead.
For those of you that don't know, the Carolina Tar Wheels sports program is dedicated to enhancing the lives of persons with disabilities by providing opportunities to develop the person as a whole, by promoting health, fitness, and education through sport, recreational, and social activities. We promote accessibility, participation, and integration while offering a program that is enjoyable and meaningful for the participants. A general bio about our program is that the Carolina Tar Wheels were started in 2008 after Donnie Langford, after playing in Charlotte for many years, realized the need for the program in Cabarrus County. We started with just basketball, and over the past few years have grown into offering softball, golf, and hand cycling. We are based in Cabarrus County, traveling all over the United States to compete in adaptive sports. There's over 185 sports programs across the country offering competition for disabled individuals. Aside from being a sports program, we are a support system for the disabled athletes. We offer a unique venue to get disabled people together and develop friendships with people that are going through what they've went through after a tragic life-changing event. We pride ourselves in offering a program completely ran by volunteers with no paid positions. We offer our program year-round to the physically disabled individuals. What we're here today about is that in April, the top 25 teams out of 97 wheelchair basketball teams are invited to go compete at the NWBA, National Wheelchair Basketball Association National Championship. Though we have been to that every year that we've had a program, this was the first year that we won, and all of our starting lineup either won MVP or all tournament. They played 7 games over 4 days and brought the national championship back to Cabarrus County.
That's awesome. So. Introduce everybody.
Okay. Starting here, this is Donnie Langford. He's the founder of our program. He's also the coach and player and won MVP at the national championship. Donna Barnett, she's been with our program since the beginning. Eric Penninger, this was his rookie year. He says this is his last year because there's nowhere to go but down. Richard Travis, also a founding member, and Trey Bates that joined us this year after traveling for other teams. Yep.
Yeah, you guys are celebrities, and we sure do want to celebrate your national championship with you. Donnie, I know you're never lost for words. Do you want to add some words? We can bring a mic over to you if you want to add something. Or Jennifer did a fantastic job, but I know you like to. He won't brag on himself, though. But
the one thing I want to say is there's so much behind the scenes to have a program like we have, and this girl right here, Jennifer's actually my daughter, and I just want to talk about her a little bit. Full-time job, goes to school, and still runs a wheelchair sports program. This year, we keep telling people we had a 5-year plan because this is our 5th year, and each year we have been ranked in the top 10. Every year we've been together, but this year we beat a team out of San Diego, California, in the national championship game. Now we're next weekend, we're actually going to Malden, South Carolina to play wheelchair softball. So we have a wheelchair softball team too. We also have the hand cycling. We do a 200-mile ride every year in hand cycling. So we try to keep these guys busy. And the sports is really not what it's all about. It's to find disabled people who think their lives are over or whatever and get them out around my guys. Because all my guys are professional people. They work every day, and that is one of the things. If you come into our program, you have to be active in the community and either get back in school, find a job, or something. But that's what we're all about. And I'm so proud of my guys because we pulled together and we got it done. So that's all I got to say. And thank you, Mike, for enjoying that.
Good luck this weekend. And
yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, the next thing we have is informal public comments. I have 3 cards. First, David Whiteley. And Commissioners, you have a handout at your seats from Cabarrus Amateur Radio Society. Welcome.
Good evening. Members of the County Commission, my name is David Whiteley. I'm also known as W4DPW, and I represent the Cabarrus Amateur Radio Society. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with the opportunity to speak to you and extend a cordial invitation for you and your families to visit our annual Field Day activity. Cabarrus County's hams will join thousands of other amateur radio operators showing their emergency capabilities on June 28th and 29th. Over the past year, the news has been full of reports of ham radio operators providing critical communications during unexpected emergencies in towns across America, including the California wildfires, flash floods in Colorado, winter storms, tornadoes, and other events worldwide. When trouble is brewing, ham radio operators are often the first to provide rescuers with critical information and communications. Because ham radios are not dependent on the internet, cell towers, or other infrastructure, they work when nothing else is available. We need nothing but air. On the weekend of the 28th and 29th, you and the public will have the chance to meet and talk with Cabarrus County's ham radio operators and see for yourself what the ham radio service, the amateur radio service, is about, as hams across the USA will be holding public demonstrations of our emergency communications abilities. This annual event, called Field Day, is sponsored by the ARRL, the National Association for Amateur Radio. Using only emergency power supplies, ham operators will construct emergency stations in parks, shopping malls, schools, and backyards across the country. Their slogan, "When all else fails, ham radio works," is more than just words to the hams, as they prove they can send messages in many forms without the use of phone systems, the internet, or any other infrastructure that could be compromised in a crisis. More than 35,000 amateur radio operators across the country participated in last year's event. In Concord, the Cabarrus Amateur Radio Society will be demonstrating amateur radio at 854 Crestmont Drive, which is a private grass airstrip. On June 28th, we invite you to come and see ham radio's new capabilities and learn how to get your own FCC radio license. Amateur radio is growing in the United States. There are now over 700,000 amateur radio licensees in the U.S. and more than 2.5 million worldwide. Through the ARRL's Amateur Radio Emergency Services Program, ham volunteers provide both emergency communications for thousands of state and local emergency response agencies and non-emergency community services as well, all for free. Ladies and gentlemen, you are most cordially invited to come and meet and talk with the hams, see what modern amateur radio can do. We can even help you get on the air. Thank you.
And I just want to make sure I have this right. June the 28th, operations start at 2 o'clock.
That's when yes.
So if the public wants to come.
It's an emergency deployment simulated, and it's a contest within that to see how many stations we can contact in a 24-hour period.
So the best time, if the public wants to come, what would be the best time for them to?
Any time in the day or afternoon on Saturday, on the 28th, because we'll be setting up in the morning, and you'll see us putting up our towers and getting our antennas in the trees and getting the generators and batteries set up.
Okay. Setup starts at 10 o'clock. I just want to make sure everybody that listens to this and watches it on TV will know your times. Setup starts at 10, operations start at 2, and will run continuously until noon on Sunday.
Noon on Sunday.
Okay, and that's at 854 Crestmont Drive.
Crestmont Drive.
Which
and the
is
only thing
between
the
73
property
and Old
owner
Airport
asks
Road.
is that we don't drive on the runway.
Okay,
But
will you have a parking?
There's plenty of parking. There's 3 acres there, and we're not in on all of it, so.
You'll have somebody there to designate where to park.
We'd hope you would come by and see and let us show you how it is, and we'll hand you a microphone. And
you get bonus points for having elected people come, right?
I will say that this is somewhat self-serving. We get extra points if you come.
And the reason I know that is you made a presentation at the City of Concord's
Yes, ma'am.
council meeting, and you told them that you got extra points if elected officials come.
That's true.
I was paying attention when you made that presentation. Thank you very much. Next speaker, John Killoran. Hi there. You might have to pull that microphone down just a little bit.
Hello, my name is John Killoran. Thank you. I am learning a lot about civics, and thank you again for letting me speak.
Is there anything that you want to tell us?
This is a great place right here. It's pretty cool. And thank you again for letting me speak.
Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Okay. Okay, and the next card, David Hampton.
Thank you. I've just got a couple things that I would like to say. I know tonight will be one of the nights that the budget is discussed heavily and hopefully approved. And I'm hoping that this has been a group effort and not working in a budget that was developed by one person. I just ask that common sense please be used and approve a budget that's workable and takes into consideration input suggestions from all departments. Obviously, there's not one expert that can be an expert in all these areas. The other issue I have is I feel like continued disrespect shown to staff and comments that belittle the employees. Posted a few weeks ago, I was asked if I had seen Mr. Ostrich's latest post, and I said no, and I went to his website. And on that website was a picture of a truck backed up against the sign at a county park. And it stated, "Other people's money, the story of government." Automatically assuming that these employees or employee of this county has no concern for taxpayers' money is totally unfair and just plain wrong. Did you contact the supervisor, department director, or even the county manager to report this problem? If you didn't trust that they would do anything, you could have obviously asked for a follow-up report. When asked on your blog, did you call anyone, you stated, and I quote, "I called 911, LOL, or laugh out loud." This obviously makes a mockery of the entire system you were here to represent and work with. This response was just plain childish. Contrary to what you may believe, there are a whole lot of citizens in this county that are proud of the individual departments and their accomplishments and the jobs that the employees do on a day-to-day basis. These citizens are also happy with the way the county has grown and the decisions that have been made through the years, obviously not agreeing with all of them, but appreciating the final overall result. A lot of staff that you assume don't care about other people's money have spent years working for the county, and departments have been required to be as cost-effective as possible for quite a while. And if this were the case and they weren't being consistent and cared about the county's money, you could have found the millions you needed for the Save the County plan. After spending 32 years as an employee of Cabarrus County and working with, I have no idea how many commissioners, I will have to say that this is one that I've seen that more negative than any other person that I've seen as a commissioner. It's time for the condescending remarks and negativity to stop. The people spoke and they want to change. And I ask that you do the right thing and resign. Thank you.
Commissioners, those were all the yellow cards I have. We don't have any old business, so the next items we have is the consent agenda. So at this time, we did remove number 3. At this time, I accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have new business. The first thing we have is the proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance. And we do need to have a public hearing, so you're going to give us some information first?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
This is a proposed amendment to Chapter 7 of our zoning ordinance. The changes are to clarify the use of RVs as temporary uses, the waiting period between the temporary uses, and then also to further clarify standards associated with public assembly events. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. The Fire Marshal's Office and Emergency Management representatives are also here if you have any questions for them, and you will need to hold a public hearing.
Commissioners, at this time, does anyone have any questions for staff?
Susie, my only question is, this only applies to events where you invite the public, is that correct?
Yes, this would apply to any event that needed a temporary use permit. So if it was a public event or, over a certain number of people were going to be there, then that's when they would apply for the permit.
I just want to make sure that if you were going to have a private party or a wedding or something like that, that you wouldn't have to go through all the steps that are outlined in the text amendment. Is that right?
If it's at somebody's house and it's a one-time event, then typically, no, they would not go through this process.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
But to follow up on that, just to make sure I understand, if it's someone who wants their house to be used multiple times for events, then they would have to go through this.
If they wanted it to be used multiple times for events, they would probably actually be looking at a real permit, not a temporary use permit. And it gets into if you're selling tickets and you're bringing the general public there, even if it is private property, there's a whole set of different regulations that come into play, and this is what we're trying to start to address with these changes.
I understand. Any other questions? Okay, at this time, we will open a public hearing. So I'll open a public hearing to consider the proposed text amendment to zoning ordinance text 2014-00004. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this text amendment? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And we need a motion to approve the proposed text amendment. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item number 2, participation in NCDOT private rail crossing closure. Mr. Marshall.
This is an item I went through with the board at your work session discussing the closure of a private road crossing north of Harrisburg Elementary School. It's actually an access point that a group of families use to access their property from Highway 49. As part of the high-speed rail and freight project where they're adding a second track to the rail through the Harrisburg area, they're trying to close these private crossings as well as doing the work you're seeing where they're taking public crossings and making them grade separated. In this case, they have proposed a road that would run north of a Harrisburg recreation facility to a school park that's adjacent to the school. It would be paved at the beginning and then gravel from some point forward after that. We asked NCDOT to consider paving the road at least a single lane width all the way to the private property owners. It does a couple things. One, it reduces some of the burden on those private property owners for what they have to maintain in perpetuity after this is built. It also reduces some of the cost of maintenance for the town of Harrisburg, which will maintain the majority of the road. And then in addition, it adds more paved lane to get to an emergency access gravel road that will be used then as an emergency access to Harrisburg Elementary. It also allows an emergency access to the backside of this park. NCDOT requested participation from the town of Harrisburg and from the commissioners, or your consideration of that, and the amount of $10,000 each. I will say the town of Harrisburg has declined to participate because they will be maintaining that road and feel they have an ongoing cost with that. At this point, it's up to you if you wish to participate. Either way, I'll communicate to NCDOT. If you do wish to participate, then I would suggest that your motion include a budget amendment that this money come from your board contingency.
Hey, Commissioners, we did discuss this at the work session. Does anybody have questions or comments at this time? Okay.
I don't have any questions. I'll just say, I know we did discuss this at length at our workshop meeting and looked at the maps. And in my opinion, I would just be in favor of, what would be proposed of the pavement stopping at the building on the school system property. So I guess that would be choosing not to participate in the additional paving of the driveway.
Okay, are you making that as a motion or as a comment?
Well, it was a comment, but
just clarifying. I don't know. Does anybody else have comments?
Do they have a paved road now?
The private road that the family uses, no, sir, it's gravel. It's been there a number of years, so it is fairly stable. Part of the issue that they're concerned about is that this will be a new gravel road on a new route and not nearly as stable because of the years that they've been putting gravel and maintaining that existing road.
Yeah, but I thought Harrisburg was going to maintain it.
Harrisburg will maintain up to, there are two buildings there. One, the first one that you come to is Harrisburg has a building that serves one of their public wells. It will be paved to that point. Beyond that is a maintenance building that's used by Harrisburg and the sports complex. Will be gravel from the well lot back to that maintenance building, and then gravel in addition all the way to the property line with the family's property. So
they have to take care of the space you're talking about. Harrisburg's going to take care of too. From there to their property line, how far is that?
I'm not sure I have a scale on this map. Excuse me. So it's between 400 and 600 feet from the maintenance building that Harrisburg will Harrisburg will maintain the road up to the point of that maintenance building, and it's 400 to 600 feet to that private property line, and that family will need to take care of that as well as the road on their own property.
So they have to maintain it from that point to their property.
They do.
Looks like the state would go ahead and pave it for them.
That was the request we made. Actually, we have quarterly meetings with the state about both the private crossings and the public crossings and the work that's being done on the double track project. Representative Pittman was there, and he was part of the group that requested that they consider this. It was after they came back to us that they proposed the participation by the two local jurisdictions.
Otherwise, the taxpayers are paying $10,000 for a private road, basically, right?
It is. There is the public benefit, and the reason I brought it forward to you is it does also access that gravel emergency access, and this project will include the construction of the gravel emergency access to the backside of the park and to the elementary school. So there is a public benefit to this project also.
To use it all the way to their property? To use the road all the way to where their property is?
It actually diverges, so about after it passes the maintenance building in approximately 100 feet, the gravel access road that would provide emergency access to the elementary school diverges from there and just is solely for the use of the elementary school.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what the total cost of that paving, to continue the paving?
Their estimate for the additional paving that will be required was $60,000 total.
And they were asking the county to do $10,000 towards the 60, so
That's right.
DOT would do the other 50,
That's
presumably.
correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
And since the town of Harrisburg chose not to participate in that, it would have been 40 from the state, 10 from town of Harrisburg, and 10 from Cabarrus County, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And so if we choose not to participate in the paving, then the emergency gravel access road will still be constructed, correct?
My understanding is it will still be constructed. That was part of their agreement in working with the schools for the easement that's needed for this road to be built in the first place. Yes, sir.
So if we choose just not to participate in the paving, we'll still have the emergency access road?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or is there a motion from the board? We need to do something, either tell them yes or tell them no. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to send it back to state and let them pay for it.
So your motion is not to participate in the private rail crossing closure.
Correct.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Next, we have proposed funding for Kannapolis Middle School. Ms. Dubois is here.
Yes, on March 17th, the board voted to fund the Kannapolis Middle School on a short-term financing for up to $23 million if Kannapolis City Schools were to rescind their bond resolution. Kannapolis City Schools did rescind their bond resolution in May, so we're proposing to do a budget amendment for $1,319,000 for the design phase of the architecture and engineering for Kannapolis Middle School. In order for the design to begin in this month of June, we would need that budget revision to be passed, and that would allow the timetable for Kannapolis to get the design phase of the school completed on a timeline to meet a March 2015 debt issuance for the short-term financing for that school. The $1,319,000 would come from the release of two assignments of fund balance, one from the Internal Service Fund releasing $1,019,000, and the other releasing $300,000 from a landfill assignment. So the money would be available today. Are there any questions?
Commissioners, comments or questions, please?
I would make a motion that we go ahead and do this, considering that we have a $10.8 million surplus. I would like to make the motion that this not be paid back and that the potential borrowing be reduced by $1,319,000 to make a maximum potential borrowing of $21,681,000.
Okay, Commissioners, there's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Commissioner Osterreich, you asked to move the consent agenda item number 3 down, so update on the construction and renovation fund budget and related budget ordinance for Rowan Cabarrus Community College cosmetology program. Since you asked to pull it, I'll let you start.
Sure. Megan, do you have the PowerPoint presentation that was sent to us this afternoon?
It's on the podium laptop if someone could display it.
Is it on the desk or?
Minimize at the bottom of the screen.
I can move the screens as you want me to.
Okay. Dr. Spalding, I had a couple of questions for you about the presentations, and I know, Janet, I believe you had sent this over, so whichever one.
Might take both of us.
Sure, no problem. I just have a couple.
Sure.
The last line of this slide says that the Cannon Village space provides 5% fewer square feet than the current space that you're in. And my understanding was that one of the principal reasons you were moving is because the facility that you're in does not provide enough space.
It's comparing it to the other proposal, not to the existing square feet. So I'm sorry for the.
No problem. That was what I was going to ask you. Are
Yes,
they
good
offering you
question.
more square footage?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good. And will it be all on that one side of the building, or do you still have to go around the corner of the L?
We have the entire well, you're talking about the Cloverleaf.
Yes.
There are two proposals. One is that we take the aesthetics lab and add on to it, and they build additional square feet there, build a whole new building. The other is that we use the existing cosmetology lab, and then they, over time, release the adjacent storefronts and ultimately build those out.
Okay. And my other question was on the last slide, and I think that probably it will be answered very similar to what you just mentioned, but I was looking at the top line under scenario A. Total renovation costs at the new facility was $2.127 million, and total renovation cost at the existing facility is $2.881 million. And really my question on that was, it surprised me that one of them was 40% higher, and it's the existing facility. So I was curious as to why remodeling an existing facility where you have all the things there and things like that would cost almost 40% more than moving to a new facility where you have to move everything over. And so could you talk with me a little bit about that?
It's about 35% higher. And we actually asked the two developers how much it would cost to renovate that space with the exact same specifications, and this is the amount that they came up with. So we were surprised as well. But we know that the Cannon Village proposal has an estimate from a builder that reflects this amount of money. So we think the 2.1 is a good number. And that it's not a bid, nothing's really exact until you get a bid, as I think everybody on the commission knows. But that bid's been out, that estimate's been out there for a while, and it's good until July 2nd. So we know that this is a good project for us, and that this space fits our needs for the reasons that were in the PowerPoint earlier, which is about timing, where students can move into a facility without having to live through the construction of it. The two existing labs we have to be rebuilt anyway. They do not conform to the needs for hallways and separating classrooms from lab space and that kind of thing. And so you'd have to do a rehab, which means you'd have to move the program out of there somewhere. And so if we can move to a different facility or a different space, then our students can move to a space that's readily usable and not live through construction. And that's very important to us, to keep the program vital and not have to live through the construction and the safety issues around it.
And I know that this is absolutely not your fault. I think I happened to be there the day that you were told that the property was being sold, so I know that you have a new landlord, a new property owner, and so I know that this is not a last-minute thing on your part to get numbers from their competing bid, and I read in your email, Janet, that you had asked for some more information and they had not been able to provide it to you.
Yes.
What do you anticipate could come back from them? I hate to sort of move forward with one option when we haven't got all of the interest figured out from the second party. Dr. Spalding, I guess it's a two-part question. What do they have to offer? And the second part of it is, do you think there's any flexibility with respect to extending that estimate through our work session at the beginning of July so that we could potentially vote on this in July and get the numbers back from the current Cloverleaf owner?
What we asked them to provide us was an apples-to-apples comparison. When we initially approached Benbrook Realty, the new landlord at Cloverleaf, we initially approached them and asked them to give us a proposal that matched what we had gotten from the other developer. For whatever reason, the proposal that came back did not give us an apples-to-apples comparison. He gave us a proposal that showed a $750,000 capital contribution from the county commission rather than the 1.5. So what I asked him to provide us was an estimate that showed putting in 1.5 capital so that we could see, when you look at 699 on the left in the green box, which is our preferred option, and compare it to 1269, you're comparing less capital. However, because the cost of the total renovation is $754,000 roughly higher than what came in from the other developer, we feel like it's still going to be higher regardless of what he comes back with. He did respond back to my email, but basically just to say that the person that could get that information for him was out of the country and did not give me a time frame on when he would be able to do that. We do know, however, and it would be, good of us to point out if we can go back one more. This was directly from the proposal that we received from Benbrook. If you notice here, there's a lot of uncertainty because his proposal basically hinges on their ability to somewhere around 12 months from now be able to get us adequate space, either by having a tenant move out or having some change in what they currently have. And then after that, there's another 120 to 180 days that would need to be spent on design and architectural services and engineering. And then after that, construction. So we have a timing problem there as well. And then you notice in the last line, if the landlord fails to obtain possession by 1 year from the lease execution, then basically we can terminate the lease. So that's another fear that we have. There is not property that's been specifically identified necessarily for this renovation, and we may get a year or more down the road and still not have a property. So that's our biggest concern with this proposal.
And I will follow up with Dr. Spalding on that question, but when looking at the numbers, if you go back to that last page, you might be able to extrapolate a little bit what his number will be, because in the top, I'll wait till you get to the last one so people can see. Sure. The top estimate, scenario A, the county has a 0 down payment, and then the bottom one, on the right-hand side, it has $750,000, and that $750,000 brings your rent payment down per foot $4. So you might extrapolate that another $750 would bring it down another $4.
Right.
But it would still be higher than it is at Castle and Cook.
Exactly. And we did attempt to do that. The problem is that the amortization that I was able to complete trying to back into what interest rate he had built in never came back to the exact numbers. So there's something else that is being built into this proposal that we did not have the information about, and that's what we reached out to him to try to get.
Okay. And Dr. Spalding, what do you think about the estimate? Have you talked with them about the firmness of that date?
This estimate's been out there a long time. We've been working on this project, as you know, for 2 years. We're glad that Cloverleaf got bought by a new investor, but we think that the terms and conditions that we've been offered are superior, both because it saves about a third, and that the long-term prospects of it are better for us, and because we can use the research campus for a library and for other kinds of support services where students can walk that we can't do in Cloverleaf currently. So we feel like that's a real strength also. And the other piece is to live through construction is a real problem for us and for our students completing their programs and for being able to serve without an interruption. We live and die on a semester system, not a construction system, and it's important for us that that construction go well. It's much easier and faster and cheaper to build an empty building than to have to clean one up to have a night class. And so we feel like that the current proposal we have is superior, and we would prefer not to wait. We're happy that Cloverleaf is going to be reinvested in, and it's going to be able to do well with a new investor from New York, but they don't, we're not a retail establishment per se, and we feel like the other location has other kinds of issues like security and the ability to have a second floor and have our first-year students separated from our second-year students, which we would not be able to do in this other configuration. So for a whole lot of reasons, including money, we really want to proceed. Though you never know what you don't know. Just looking at the initial cost, we know that this is going to cost more money. So frankly, we would like to proceed tonight if we can with the Cannon Village proposal and honor the construction amount that we currently have. If it comes back, if they have to go back, I think we'll come back for more money. It's hard to get construction done right now. We're having construction done at North Campus. We had to rebid it twice because we didn't have enough bidders even. So I'm really kind of anxious about this program and being able to put it to rest.
Well, I suppose that's another question that I have with respect to the procedure. Is there any reason that it hasn't been bid yet? Is it because the funds have not been transferred?
Yes.
Okay. And so potentially we could transfer the funds tonight and you would go out and ask them to honor this estimate, but it's really not it's not bonding for anything, and so they can come back with a bid that's significantly higher.
Well, right. We would like to proceed immediately. It would give us a 2-week jump. The Kannapolis money can be used to pay for the architect starting tomorrow if this money is passed tonight.
Can you get it bid without having the architecture done?
No.
I was thinking not, but yeah, I mean, once we go down this path, we are committing to it, and we don't necessarily have things
frankly,
firm.
We're asking for a commitment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Is that square foot cost, is that for the term of the lease?
Yes.
So it can't change?
No, both of them, neither of them have an escalation clause built in them that we can follow over time on the 20-year. We're still in negotiations for both of these. We haven't proceeded because we have both of these on the table. But the escalation cost for the Cloverleaf proposal is in there.
Actually, it's not. They did not give us one for Cloverleaf. The Benbrook, we get them confused, but the Benbrook property, which is Cloverleaf, I'm sorry, I'm confused. The Benbrook lease proposal has an escalation, a statement in it that indicates there will be an escalation, but does not give us the amount of the escalation. The Castle and Cook proposal for Cannon Village does not have an escalation built in yet, and we haven't negotiated all the terms. It's important to remember that we don't anticipate anything going higher, but we certainly want to talk to them about going lower and plan to do that before any contracts are signed.
Okay.
In some ways, this is a chicken and an egg prospect. Unless you have the money, you can't bid it. And so we are stuck, and we need to get unstuck if we can.
The estimate that you have that expires 1st of July, is pretty firm, you feel.
That's what they tell us, yes.
And actually, I should point out, it would be a small bit lower, because if you notice on that final, if we can go back, if you'll notice in the scenario B, the green box, it's 300,000 for state capital improvement dollars. We actually have 29,000 more than that we will put into the project. They used 300,000 at the time that they did the estimate, so it will be just a little bit smaller. But we have been told that the architectural quote is firm, the design quote is firm, and that the construction quote is a good one. So
Right.
we don't anticipate
And I
much
think
flux.
this is people that Castle and Cook has a history of working with.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I think you said that earlier. So
These are
they
known-
feel,
These are known entities.
right. So the other proposal's kind of late to the game, so if we delay as a result of that, then if we delay long enough, we could probably get another proposal from another different location, and there would never be any end. So I certainly am in favor, if we have a good, sound proposal that demonstrates that it saves us money and gives us a superior facility than what we currently have, then I'm in favor of going ahead now.
Okay, thank you. It's not that easy to find places for 28,000 square feet. So it's been a long search, and we have tried multiple places in multiple ways. In fact, the predecessor of this investment company gave us a proposal for $20 a square foot, and that was their solution when they were paying at the time $9. So we're trying to keep the cost down to the county. And so though this is an interesting proposal, it is more expensive.
Who's going to do maintenance on that building?
The maintenance is part of the
Cost of square
allotment.
footage?
It's part of the allotment we already pay we're paying at Cloverleaf. That same amount of money or thereabouts will go into this building. So we'll stop paying it there and start paying it in this
How about the power bill? Who's going to pay it?
We
Same.
pay the power, and
They
we do
gonna-
now.
It's included.
Yes, and we do now as well.
Okay. It's a pretty old building up there, you know.
Oh, but it'll have a new roof and a new electrical system and LED lights and all new electricity and air conditioning. So it should be a whole lot better off.
Okay, any other comments on this item? Is there a motion to be made?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve this project to go forward immediately as has been proposed on the Cannon Village site.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second? Second. There is a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
My only comment on this, we are approving the budget ordinance, and I do have some comments on some other projects that we've been discussing, but we can do those comments as part of the general budget discussion under the next item. But I did want to make that clear that in voting for that, I'm not voting for the ordinance itself, just this amendment.
Okay, we just want to make sure the motion that you made, sorry, I'm at the wrong page. I want to make sure that we get the motion stated correctly. Okay, what's been asked is a motion to approve the revised construction and renovation project ordinance and the related budget amendment. So I presume that's what you meant, was to move forward with the project.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
With the details as identified, which would be $1.5 million transferred from the general fund to the construction and renovation fund for account tracking of this particular project, Rowan Cabarrus Cosmetology.
That is correct. My motion is to approve what we would have approved in our consent agenda, which is spelled out there.
I just want to make sure, and so is that what you're saying, that, because you said you weren't voting for one, I just want to make sure
I
we
mean,
understood the
I'll
motion.
talk about it later, but we had discussion as a board today through email correspondence about Camp Spencer and Wallace Park, and so I want to reserve my opportunity to speak about those things for the general budget, and I just wanted to make that clear for the board, that's all.
Okay, I just want to make sure if you had comments about this particular cosmetology.
But the funds are available, right?
Yes, the funds are available from the excess revenues that are projected and actually collected thus far for this fiscal year.
Okay, so we have a motion and you seconded, is that correct? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Okay, next item we have number 5. Are you going to? Ann's going to do that, okay.
We need to proceed with the steps for our bond referendum in November. The steps that need to be taken tonight include the introduction of the bond orders for the schools and the community college, the authorization of the publication of the bond orders, and the scheduling of a public hearing for the regular meeting on July 21st, 2014.
Okay, commissioners?
Move over to the mic. I can't hear.
There you go. Okay. So we have 3 things before us. The first would be a motion to approve the introduction of the general obligation bond orders for the schools and the community college. So there's 3 motions that we're being requested tonight. Second one is to authorize publication of the bond orders, and the third is to schedule a public hearing for July the 21st, 2014, which is our regular meeting. Any questions, comments on this particular item, commissioners?
Madam Chairman, I would just comment that I am opposed and will vote against these 3 motions in light of the fact that the amounts of these bond proposals are insufficient to cover the projects that are being asked for. And we have not yet identified the additional funding to go forward with the projects.
Okay, any other comments?
Madam Chairman, we had a $10.8 million surplus for the year, and it was only expected to be $5.5 million, so we could go ahead and fund the extra $2 million for the RCC Advanced Technology Center now, if you'd like to appropriate it.
I think before us would be handle this issue on the bond orders. Is there any other comments about the bond, or is there a motion from a commissioner? And do we have to do 3 separate motions, or can we do one? 3. We have to have 3 separate motions. Okay. So the first one is the introduction of the general obligation bond orders for the schools and the community college. Is there a motion at this time?
So moved.
Okay. There is a motion to approve? That's your motion?
A motion to approve, yes, ma'am.
Just want to clarify. Okay, there is a motion to approve. Is there a second? There is a motion and there is a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. No. Then that motion fails. 2-3. I'm not certain what we do. Steve. It would seem that if that fails, that we wouldn't do the other 2.
Okay, may I ask for a point of clarification? Did you, the motion was for both bond orders, so choose not to go forward with either the school or the community college? Is that?
Okay, the motion was for both, because that's how that's typed up. I didn't separate it out. Okay. Do you want to say, is it one or the other? You voted no. Are you voting no for both schools and community college?
Yes, and if we choose to make another motion that considers them separately, then I will vote accordingly.
Okay. Do you want to make a comment since you voted no?
No.
Do you want them to be separated in 2 different ones? Is it going to make a difference?
Don't make a difference to me. I think.
Is your vote still going to be no?
In point of order.
Okay.
Because you have 2 separate bond orders, I think it would be appropriate procedurally to have a separate vote
Okay.
on the introduction of the bond orders.
Jason, can I
Just
ask
like
you
you have to have a
to
separate
do one
election.
for public schools is listed first, if you'll do it first?
I make a motion to approve the introduction of the general obligation bond orders for the public schools.
Okay. Do you wish to second that again? Okay. So there is a motion, there is a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. You said yes, correct? Okay, so motion carries for the public schools 3-2. Do you want to do the second one?
I will. I make a motion to approve the introduction of the general obligation bond order for the community college.
Okay, there is a motion. Do you wish to second that one? Thank you. There's a motion and there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Aye. Motion carries 3-2. Okay, you got the, Megan, you got the vote? No, you voted in favor of the community college?
Yes.
So therefore, it's 3-2. 3-2 and 3-2.
So
Okay.
each motion
So each
having passed.
motion did pass.
Now it's appropriate to proceed
With
to
the-
the second resolution that calls the public, authorizes the publication of bond orders, calls public hearing.
And I can do those jointly,
Yes.
Mr. Cordell?
I believe that's correct.
All right.
Can you do it, clarification for both of the bonds or for?
I think at this point you can,
Okay.
yes. I
Good.
think the bond
Like to
orders.
clarify.
I will make them separate motions for each of the two remaining things and combine both of the bonds. I make a motion to authorize the publication of the approved bond orders as introduced
For
for the
schools
public
and-
schools and the community college.
Thank you. Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that motion carries 5-0.
Madam Chairman, I make a fourth motion to schedule a public hearing for the July 21st, 2014 regular meeting to deal with the general obligation bond orders for the public schools and the community college.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And as a procedural matter, there's a sworn statement of debt and a statement of estimated interest that we've prepared, and that, as finance director, it's now appropriate for Ann to file that with Megan as the clerk to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have discussion about the 2015 Cabarrus County budget. Commissioners, we've gotten a fair amount of information over the last 2 weeks since we last met, so I am going to call on the county manager to go over some of the information that we recently received.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief overview. Again, you had your 3 budget sessions. At that time, we informed you that we were going to continue to monitor what the state legislature was doing, and still stay in conference with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. We also had several meetings with the schools, meetings / telephone conversations with the schools, both systems, and then also with the Cabarrus Health Alliance. So what we have now, we have got some recommended changes just based on the information that we have received during that process, and we want to take that time now to present those to you and for the public to see as well, if that's okay. Okay. We'll start off with Ms. Dubois. She's going to start talking about some of the changes with the schools, and then also with the Health Alliance.
I'm going to let Parth start off, Mr. Mehta, discussing the couple of changes prior to.
Okay, all right.
There's a few other changes. Let him go over.
Good evening. The first page, and I think all the commissioners or everyone up here has a copy, are all the changes that we discussed at the work session on June 2nd, I believe. So what I'll do is just skip to the second page, and that's everything that's highlighted in orange, again signifying the changes that came about after the work session. So the first one that you see where it says department various, that's because there were a number of departments that were affected, and so it would have taken up a lot of space to put all of them. But that was for salaries and benefits. In the budget workshops, we mentioned that from April, May, and June, there were still merits that had to be paid. However, this actually is a decrease of $23,962, and you can see in the explanation that that is because of terminations. And termination means any number of things, including retirements, resignations, or someone being hired at a lower pay than someone else, than the person that just left. And there were actually more of those than there were merit increases. Therefore, there's a subtraction of $23,962. For that reason, and I'm going to jump down to the non-departmental line, it's probably about 7 lines down maybe, where it says salary adjustments. And we've actually taken down $130,000 from there as well. And that's because originally we had budgeted $115,000 for those merit adjustments. And because what we see and from our projections we're not going to have as much, we thought it necessary to bring that down. And also we now, after having the salary reclassification data back, we believe that that number can be adjusted as well. So that is a reduction of $130,000. So now going back to the top where it says community development, you have a series of revenue increases, and you see that on the right side where it says effect on revenues. They were no more than $1,000 or roundabout, and those are all from the HCCBG board meeting after June 6th or on June 6th, and those are funds that are given by the state and feds, and because those change very frequently, this was the last time they were going to make changes for the fiscal year 15 budget, and these were items that we thought would be good to put on this list. Beyond that, I do not think there are any other differences or changes that I'm going to discuss. I'm going to hand it off to Ms.
Can you open that up because you're covering up 2 items?
This is a PDF. This is a PDF.
Yeah. Okay. The remainder of the changes are for what Mr. Downs discussed, the meetings that we've had with the schools and with the Health Alliance. And for some reason, when the PDF was taken in place, there's 2 numbers missing under the $837,000. They're kind of stuck between this big dark line. But they are 2 adjustments to the building maintenance funds for Cabarrus County and Kannapolis City Schools. And then there's an adjustment also recommended for reduction of $837,000 into 2 capital projects that the general fund was proposed to fund, one for a chiller and one for some radios for the sheriff's department. And what we have found from all of our research, and we'll start with the local funding of the salary teacher increases. Okay, thank you, Parth. Okay, Parth did some research working with Cabarrus County Schools and Kannapolis City Schools, and as Mr. Downs indicated, there are 3 budgets that are currently out there. We have the House version, we have the Senate, and we have the governor's. And this sheet that's before you is showing the numbers for Cabarrus County Schools, and at the lower portion of it are the numbers for Cabarrus County Schools. And in reflection of what we have for the adjustments on this final sheet are going with the governor's budget. They are the worst case scenarios as far as what the effect is on our budget. So we went with those numbers to place that funding into the board's contingency pending the results of the adopted budget by the state, not knowing which one of those are going to take place. Once the state budget is put into place, then you will know what amounts of money from contingency that would need to be given to the schools to provide for the local employees that the county funds. and that appropriate amount of money would be requested to be transferred, and that would be a budget revision that would come back before the board to request those funds to be transferred from the contingency to the two different school districts. We did this, the budget before last, with a 1% salary increase that took place with the state. So we wanted to provide you with that data, and like I said, Cabarrus County Schools is at the top of the sheet, and then Kannapolis City Schools is at the bottom. We feel pretty confident that up to the $33,000 for the teacher salary is going to stay in all three plans, but after that, we're not sure which direction the other positions that have been proposed will take. And so those are causing an effect of an additional $248,330 to be placed in the contingency fund that's listed on your budget change sheet with the page number 3 beside it. The next proposal is, I believe, the charter schools. Okay. Had a discussion with the board. I can't remember whether it was during the work session or a previous meeting, and I know it was during the chair-vice chair meeting with Cabarrus County Schools, but what we learned at a conference that was held in May was that when the charter school students leave the Cabarrus County Schools or the Kannapolis City School Districts, the following year they become part of the charter school district, and they're no longer included in the Cabarrus County's or Kannapolis City's count for their ADM population. However, both school systems still have to pay for those students and transfer the money for the local funding to the individual charter schools. So in conversations with Rebecca Troutman from the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners and trying to come up with some scenarios of how to present this, it makes more sense to present, when we give the school populations for both school districts, to also be inclusive of the number of charter school students that they're having to pay for and remit the money to the individual charter schools. So when we presented the information to you for education this year, it appeared that they had a reduction in student population, when in essence they did not have a reduction. They lost over 1,000 students to charter schools last year, and they're proposing a potential of an additional 913 more students on the Cabarrus County side, and Kannapolis is pretty much staying in sync with maybe 2 or 3 students varying back and forth. Because this is a brand new method, what we're proposing, if you would like to fund the additional students, because we did not provide any monies to the school systems for their growth in their student population, is to only provide them with 50% of that money on July 1st and wait until we get the second month's count of students from the state to know what truly happened. Because you're getting confirmations from charter schools on what they propose to think what their enrollment's going to be, but yet they have the whole summer to accept enrollment. And then the schools are not sure of what student population they'll have once that day occurs. So providing them with 50% of the funding and holding the other 50% back until the realization of what the true number is a process of what we've recommended here, unless the board would choose to hold back 100%. That's the choice that's there. But this is the information that we worked with Cabarrus County Schools on. They had the largest number of charter school students, going back and negotiating with them of what would be a reasonable number to fund, and we came up with roughly $827,000. And to match Kannapolis City Schools, it brings you up to about $934,000 to do the ADM split for that. So we're requesting in this here to fund 50% of it on July 1st, and the remainder of the other 50% to come once that student population number was there, should the board choose to do this. And we are just providing you with those options. The last conversation that we worked on was the Cabarrus Health Alliance School Nurse program, and Sue Yates and myself have worked numerous times through emails, phone conversations, and face-to-face meetings, along with Fred Pilkington and Mike Downs, and we have gone through and analyzed everything and come back with what we hope to be a more simplistic picture of what is going on between what happened over time and what funding is in place and what funding is not in place. And for the FY15, the Cabarrus Health Alliance was requesting an additional $262,385 to make the school nurse program whole. Through discussions, we've compromised on not filling the position of an additional nurse. And we came back to, and because our board did not fund raises in FY13, and we made the comments to the Health Alliance that we would not fund their merit increase in FY13. We are not proposing to do that now. However, we proposed a raise for our employees in FY14, but did not fund the school nurse program in FY14, so that is the $38,003. When we funded the additional hours for the school nurses and what we thought were the additional days, we did not apply any benefits to the salaries that were provided. We were given a number that was equated to the salary figure, but did not include retirement, Social Security, Medicare, insurance and bonds, and workers' compensation. So those items were excluded, and we have come back and agreed that that calculation is $54,985. When we funded the school nurse program in 2013, they started the nursing program, and they started the health insurance program for their part-time nurses, and we provided them with funding for the number of nurses who chose to take on health insurance. More individuals would like to have health insurance this year, so that is the $12,532 request that's there. The additional $8,789 is in operational expenses, and the majority of that is made up of $5,400, which is for a software program to keep track of the medical incidents of the students. It is not a software program that they use in their clinics. It's strictly for the nurses who are out in the field, and it's on their laptops. So that's the bulk of the $5,400 of the $8,789. There are a couple of other increases in some small travel and other line items like office supplies. So that came up to a request of $114,309 that we agreed on versus the $262,000. Applying the $56,928 that we funded in the manager's budget to cover the position nets out an additional request of $57,381 that would get us back in sync on the school nurse program and allow us to move forward and be in agreement that we have funded the program excluding FY13 merits, which we agreed that we didn't do back in 13. I hope that wasn't too complicated, but that was what we were trying to propose here to show you that of the things that we looked at, what we eliminated, and that's what makes up the request of the $57,381. So those requests are the additional $248,330 to meet the governor's budget request for salaries that will be placed in contingency until some state budget is adopted, to fund $934,000 for the increase in students when we did the charter school method of applying adding them to the average daily membership, proposing to give them 50% up front and then wait until we have an evaluation of the actual students on the second month count. The third thing is for, let's see, there's the ADM of 467. Excuse me, that was the other part. And then the third thing is the $57,381 for the Health Alliance. And by funding those proposed changes, we would eliminate the radios for the Sheriff's Department and the chiller for the governmental center until the books are closed and we know what the true excess fund balance are, and would come back to the board for those two particular projects should the board choose to fund those after the audit is completed, and also would reduce the building maintenance cost for Cabarrus County Schools of $187,871 and for Kannapolis City Schools in the amount of $24,436, net resulting in an additional $25,016 reduction in the overall general fund budget. Should you propose to take any of those changes?
Just one point of clarification, the reduction in the building maintenance cost for the schools is a reduction in that proposed additional money. It's not going backwards from their current money. It's not going back from current year. We had proposed an increase. We are coming we are proposing to cut that increase back to a smaller number in order to fund the salaries.
And we were able to have a conversation with Will Crabtree today in regards to that because he's in the office, but Kelly was on vacation this week. So those were some of the issues that have been brought before us in regards to the changes that we've heard about from the House, the Senate, and the charter schools that we talked about that we were trying to come to a resolution on. So we wanted to provide you with that information for your review and for your decisions on whether you wanted to make any of those adjustments.
Okay, I want to say thank you very much to our staff and to the Cabarrus Health Alliance staff. This school nurse funding has been a priority, and it's been very, very hard to get all the details. I mean, I thought we had it correctly. We didn't. And I appreciate all the efforts that everybody has taken to try to make sure that we got that correct. I'd like to offer a personal apology to Dr. Pilkington. I don't believe at any time in our budget hearings was there any intent to lie or to deceive the Board of Commissioners. I think he had access to some information, and we were not exactly correct in our comments. And so, Dr. Pilkington, I hope that you would accept my apology. It's by both groups working together, the staff of both groups working together to try to make this right. I truly did believe that we had gotten it right. I apologize because I just didn't know that I didn't have all the numbers. Let me just put it at that. But I really appreciate everybody working hard to make sure that we had this correct, and I want to apologize for anything that I may have said that was inappropriate. The school nurses are extremely vital, and Commissioners, I would hope that we would go forward with this compromise that's been worked out to try to make sure that we can truly say, 2 years now into it, that of really trying to get it right, that we have gotten it right, and that everybody agrees that we have covered the cost of that program. So, I don't know, we have reviewed, I know that staff did review all the exhibits. I was going on memory of conversations last year and the year before. I won't say that my memory's getting bad, but, I know what I thought, and so I apologize. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I thought you were moving on to the next topic. And
so that's what I was getting ready to do. I just wanted to take a moment and apologize so that we could go ahead and talk about the budget itself and these changes or any other changes. So do you want to add something?
Yeah. We do have, we had presented to you several different fee change schedules or fee schedule changes. We want to give you an update on that. We sent out some information in your question and answers, but we have those, and we have those department heads here that can help with that information as well. Mr. Marshall will start off, and he'll introduce those department heads if needed for answers.
Just to introduce this and to clarify, when we go through our budget presentations, we're asking department heads not just to estimate their expenditures for the year, but also their revenues for the year. And then in addition, finance helps review those revenues, and as well as the expenditures. With that, we ask them if there are any necessary or changes to their fee schedules that they would recommend that they bring those forward. And those are what we presented at your last workshop. We had 3 divisions that had recommended some fee schedule changes. Those were construction standards, planning and zoning, and then emergency management. The division heads or department heads for each of those are here tonight. I think the one that I know has some points that wanted to make some overview points is Kelly Sifford with construction standards, but on the other 2 items, you have copies of those fee schedules with the changes marked. If you have questions, then Susie Morris and Bobby Smith are also here, but I'll let Kelly make some overview points to the construction standards changes.
Good evening, thank you. At their agenda session, we did provide you with 3 options in addition to no change to the fee structure. You were provided the actual cost of the services and comparisons with national averages that Parth provided you after the meeting. We need to make a decision in conjunction with the budget in order to make necessary changes in the system. We have a limited number of days at this point to make changes into the system by July 1st. Staff recommended a 6% increase in the budget, in the revenues, as the budget was being developed. We have also proposed a plan reviewer, which we discussed earlier, to do the residential plan review. Staff is requesting this position due to the large increase in plan review and projections of large increases in insurance rates. We did meet with we did discuss this with the Home Builders Association. They did have some comments and some concerns. Their concerns were mainly how quickly we would be able to turn around approvals, and we did come to a good agreement on that. We also, they told us there was a certain model out there that they liked, a certain other government agency. They used that method of plan review as a coaching method. So they would kind of circle areas that tended to get in trouble on the job site and say, make sure you pay attention to this, those kind of comments. The plan review fee that applies to commercial would also apply to that, and it would only be charged once per plan. The plan can be used as many times as the builder wished to do so. They did tell me on average, tract builder uses the plan around 13 times. I think that covered most of the concerns. We did hope that the ISO, the insurance service offices, had recommended a 35% increase in insurance rates for the next year. I don't know that they would receive that, but the only ding, so to speak, that we got during our rating system was the fact that we don't do residential review at this time. So we were hoping to address that and save everyone on their insurance ratings. It will in the future do that. And we will also be using it to review floodplain and hopefully get the flood insurance under control as well. The other benefit that we expect to see is that the field inspectors may have a better turnaround on their time. What we're experiencing now is many of the homes that are being constructed have very complex framing systems. Somebody cuts into it, you have to get the engineer to approve that. So we're hoping that if there's kind of a standard issue where they're going to be cutting in a certain place over and over, we can kind of get that resolved ahead of time. The field inspector won't have to spend as much time getting approvals through the engineers, and we're hoping that that can move better in the field for the builder and the inspector. Are there any questions?
Commissioners? Yes, sir.
Kelly, did you say that most of our large developers we actually make a little bit of money off of those developers in doing the permits and things like that because they do them on such volume? I thought you had mentioned that at the work session.
Commercial development.
Yeah, commercial development.
Yes.
And that on really single-family homeowners is where we lose a little bit of money. Is that right?
Yes, if you look at how much time and cost is invested in the inspections, we lose a little money on residential and we gain a little bit on commercial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd like to get these out of the way, and for all of these, for all three, the fire marshal, the planning and zoning, and construction fees, I make a motion that we let those remain where they are. Our taxpayers had paid a 10% tax increase on both their real property and all of their personal property, which is not devalued in 2012, and I think our taxpayers pay enough. Our commercial builders are paying more than their fair share, and if you are getting a permit on a single-family residence, you are going to be a taxpayer, a real property taxpayer, and I think that your tax payments cover these types of things. So, my motion is that we leave the fire marshal, planning and zoning, and construction fees at the status quo where they are.
Well, if you look at it, the county loses, $385 on every house for the cost, plus what they charge, $855 they charge, cost the county $1,215. That's going back to all the taxpayers to pick up the tab on that. And these out-of-town builders come in and throw up all these substandard houses, get their money and leave town. I don't have a problem with them paying their permit fee to start with.
I think that she mentioned the out-of-town builders are actually paying more than their fair share.
It can't be in residential. She's talking about commercial.
Okay, we do have a motion on the table to leave all the fees at the current amount, correct? Yes. Okay, so is there a second to the motion? Okay, there is a motion and there is a second. Is there any other discussion? Do you have anything else at this time? Okay, is there any other discussion, commissioners?
Well, yeah, I think Commissioner Burridge makes a good point. We do have a lot of out-of-town residential builders that come in, and if we are losing money on those, then I think we need to adopt the changes as proposed by staff. Within the last 2 or 3 weeks, I have been approached by 2 different architects, and the comments that they made to me was, number one, which I was very pleased, they said the folks in planning department do an excellent job with the work that they do for us, both in plan review and the inspections, and their plea to me was, please support those guys as far as from a salary standpoint as well as from a manpower standpoint. That the one thing that they were concerned about was the fact that with the increase in volume of building projects that's now beginning to occur, that the timeline was getting stretched out further. So the message that I heard from them is, if we need to pay a little bit more on our fees in order to have adequate staff to push these projects through in a timely manner, then we don't mind paying that. I think that the information, and I can't put my finger on it right now, too many budget papers here, but when you compare the fees that we charge here with other communities nationally, it seems that we are way below what might be considered average for those kind of things. So I would vote against this motion and would hope that we would be able to approve these very modest changes that staff has proposed.
I am not making any motion with respect to staff. I support increased staff. I'm making my motion about the homeowners and the taxpayers. Every single person that gets one of these permits is paying taxes in Cabarrus County, and this is a mostly self-sufficient thing, but I don't have any problem. Just this last month, I had to go down and get my car inspected, 2 cars inspected, had to pay my tax on 2 cars. I had to get my alarm permit fee done, which was $10. I had to get my irrigation pump looked at, my valve looked at, that cost $50. The government just continues to nickel and dime people all the way around and continue to take more and more of their money. And the people just had a 10% tax increase in 2013, and they pay their fair share.
Well, I think you probably make some valid points, but the fact of the matter is, if we're going to have adequate staff to perform these inspections in a timely manner, then we're going to have to pay for them. I would much prefer that we pay for them through the use of these fees, which are the people that are actually using the services, rather than imposing an additional tax on our entire population to cover those specific items. And I would question a lot of the builders that are building in Cabarrus County right now are not taxpayers in Cabarrus County. Now, the product that they produce will produce property tax revenue for us over the long run, but some of them are here to build, sell, and leave. So I'm not sure what lasting effect they have on our Cabarrus County property tax revenues.
But you lose on residential every time you, on tax-wise. But the only thing I'd vote for would be bringing up what it cost. Anything else I wouldn't vote for.
Jason, you want to say something? I was just going to.
Question.
Okay, can I say real quick? We need to have a public hearing before I think we would do that, your particular motion, because that's part of the budget. So, not to squelch, you're welcome to say something, but we do have to call for a public hearing. So I was trying to get some general comments so we can have, so everybody here knows what we're talking about when whatever motions are made, and give an opportunity for anybody that, out here, that might want to comment about those fees also. Is that, okay, would you want to go ahead and add at this time?
On page 7, which is the last page, the second to last, it says technology fee, 3% of total fees. What is that? It's in the red.
That is currently in place, and it is to pay for the Acela system that we purchased and the maintenance on it and the staffing that goes with it. It goes toward that.
Okay.
That is no
So it'd be
change.
3% of,
It's 3%. It's added on to the cost of the permit.
okay,
And it's done today. That is already in place.
okay.
So we do have a motion and a second, but if you can just wait on that, and so if we can talk about the overall budget, which my notebook's getting pretty full at this point, as is yours. We have the county manager's budget that's been presented to us, along with the changes that we've gotten for the fiscal year 15 budget. Commissioners, is there any information that you need or anything that you want to talk about before we do a public hearing, so that people here know how we're going or what you're thinking? You're making a face. I wasn't certain if you were thinking. Okay, so why don't we, if it's okay, can we go ahead and open the public hearing? And then we can come back to making motions? Okay. So at this time, I will open the public hearing concerning the proposed fiscal year 2015 Cabarrus County budget. You've heard a lot tonight. You've probably paid attention in all of our work sessions. So at this time, I would open it for anyone who would like to speak on the budget information that's been presented to us so far. Anything that we need to hear. Is there anyone that would like to address the board at this time? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Okay, so now we'll go back to your motion, okay? What did I have? On the right one.
It's motion to not change.
Okay, so, yeah, I was just trying to follow what I have here. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so we have a motion to leave the planning and zoning, fire marshal, and building inspection fees as is, right? And you seconded that, Chris? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Okay, that motion fails 2-3. Is there any other motion? We can stay with this one, or we can talk about the general fund or any other funds. If you want to look on page 289 in your budget book, under requested action, that'll make sure that we get all of those correctly.
Madam Chair, while we are on the fee topic, I would move that we approve these adjusted fees as recommended by staff, as has been presented to us today.
I was going to wait and make a point of clarification, but I was wanting to wait for your procedural.
Okay, so there is a motion to approve the changes as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
They got 3 different recommendations in there.
That's the point I was going to make with
I
the
think she said
construction
6%.
standards fees. We recommended either a 2.5%, a 7%, or a 10% increase, and it would be up to the board to specify which.
I thought there was a 6%. I thought that was part of it.
6% was the estimated revenue increase for that budget, just because of the increase in the economy.
Okay, so on the back side of this sheet, is that the proposal, Will?
Well, we had shown you 3 potential changes, a 2.5% increase, a 7% increase, or a 10% increase, and it would then, again, be up to the board which one you recommend.
On the back of that page, it has to maintain appropriate staffing levels and process inspections in a timely manner. Cabarrus County is proposing a 10% permit fee increase, and the minimum permit fee for any permit would be $42.
That's right.
So that is the
Yes.
recommendation, which is what your motion said, staff's recommendations.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, so we do have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a motion and there is a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I told you the only thing I'd vote for to bring it up to what it cost.
Key up your microphone.
But I said the only thing I would vote for to bring it up to what it costs the county. I don't see no reason just putting 10% on there, bring it up to what it costs the county.
Will you make a motion, please?
Y'all
Well-
done made the motion.
Well, that one
Let's
failed.
forget it. Well, let's just forget it.
Well, we have to have some direction. It's either,
You got it, just leave it like it is.
okay, that was his motion to begin with.
That's right.
That you voted against.
Yeah.
So do you want him to bring the motion up again?
I guess.
Or do you want to make the motion? I just want to make sure which way you want it, where you want to
The only
go.
thing I'm saying is, if the
Turn your
county is,
microphone.
if the county is paying $1,215 for every inspection, only collecting $855, that's not, how many businesses could stay in business doing that? Anybody out here can stay in business doing that, losing $385 on every job you do? That makes no sense to me. Which that's the reason government costs so much.
And I'm trying to ascertain what motion you would be in favor of.
If you're only gonna
So-
raise it 10%, if you're only gonna raise it 10%, leave it like it is.
Okay,
There's three options.
can I look at on the fire marshal's budget? Okay,
I'd say leave his like it is too.
okay, so you
Yeah, I'm all right with
do
the
not
fire
want to
marshal.
change the
No, I
fire
don't
marshal's.
cha- I don't change the fire marshal.
Don't unkey, don't,
I don't want to change the fire marshals in any kind of way.
okay. On planning and zoning,
Leave it like it is.
no changes to
No
planning and
changes.
zoning? Okay. On building inspection,
We're gonna leave it like it is.
so no increase.
No increase.
That's your motion.
If-
Is that your motion?
No, my motion would be to bring it up to what it costs the county, but I don't think we're gonna get it there, so
Well,
just leave it like it is.
if you make the motion for how much you want it to be.
I'll make a motion to
That's all I'm
bring it up
asking.
to what it costs the county.
Okay, can you tell me what that would be?
Right here it says $1,200.
I know, I just wanted,
$1,215.75.
We do have the cost of the number of, with the projected number of inspections. However, I will just comment that one of the comments that the builders did give to me was that they didn't want a substantial increase. They were hedging a little bit on the 10%, but they did say that they wanted to make sure that we had appropriate staffing. I recommended 10% because I thought it was at least a step in the right direction of getting toward where we needed to be.
to get to the 1215, though, you're looking at,
Yeah, I mean, if
It's
the
a
board doesn't
tremendous
feel
increase.
comfortable with the 10%, but they do feel comfortable with an increase, we can do it over the next couple of years. We can gradually step it up to where it needs to go, if the board so chooses.
Kelly, on some of these big developments, you're going out there and doing multiple permit inspections at one time, correct?
Correct.
Well, I mean, at some of them, I mean, for instance, building inspection, you've got 50 minutes, you've got travel time in there and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not paying that on every one of these. If you're going out to a volume place, we are not paying that. And so a
Correct.
lot of these places could pay for themselves at the rate that it is. I mean, really what you're talking about is individuals building single homes where you're going out there and doing a one-off inspection for a single person. I mean, that's going to be the most expensive one.
Anything that is in the northeast part of the county, out toward Midland, we have a lot more travel time. If it's in the north, around Highland Creek, that area, we have it divided up into inspection territories. Some of those territories, yes, the inspector may be able to park his car and he probably can spend most of the day in that subdivision. But it's just that one area, or there's two areas I would say that are probably like that. The other inspection areas, the other 10 areas do have some driving time involved. So yes, there was no exact science to this. We had to make an average, and we were, I think, conservative with our estimates on that.
What are the other counties? What are the other counties around Cabarrus County?
What are they?
Building permits for Iredell, Union,
I
Mecklenburg.
understand that Rowan may be lower, but I believe everybody else is higher. It varies depending on trades and, that kind of thing. We would have to, kind of break it out differently. And it's not always exactly an apples-to-apples comparison in the way that the permitting is done. You know that because you draw permits in different places. But we are generally lower than everybody, except Rowan.
So if I read this correctly, 10% would get it up to $855, where the cost is $1,215. So are you comfortable with 2.5, 7, 10, leaving it like it is at $777?
I'm comfortable leaving it like it is. That's what you're gonna do. I mean,
We can keep it.
if you're not gonna get the cost out of it, what difference does it make how much you give away?
I guess it's how much you give away. We need to make a motion of some sort that we can get past, so you're the one, you know more about this area than I do.
Remake your
That's why I'm
motion,
looking at you.
Jason.
This is getting to be old hat tonight. We've had a couple times done this. I make a motion that for the fire marshal, planning and zoning, and construction fees, that we maintain those fees at the current levels with zero increase.
We have a motion and a second, unless you want to second it.
That's all right.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. So the motion carries 3-2. Okay.
Madam
Okay.
Chairman, would you mind if I made a motion on the fire taxes as well, so we can sort of get some of these smaller things cleaned up, or would you like to turn over to the
Fire tax
to the
is
main
fine.
budget? Okay. I make a motion that we leave the fire tax rates at the status quo rate that they are at as well. My primary concern on that is when we were in our budget workshop meeting, I believe it was Mr. Holloway had made the point that we really need to get our insurance rates down. And to be quite honest, the government is the only people that I hear talking about that. And he made the point that if you have a certain value of house, that bringing the tax rate up will be a smaller, well, bringing your insurance rate down will be a greater increase than your tax rate going up will be, and so you will end up in a net positive. And I think that's true for the city people. I think for a lot of our farmers and a lot of our people doing agricultural work, they are paying that rate on also their personal property. And very many of them have very modest houses and pay a good bit on their land, and even though it's in the agriculture program. But I don't think that they're going to see the savings in the fire rating as somebody that's not in the agriculture industry, and I think they will see the tax increase significantly more. And so for both of the requesting entities, I motion that the tax rate stay the same for both entities.
Okay, and those are Mount Pleasant and Northeast?
Yes.
Just for anybody that wasn't at the work sessions. Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and there's a second. Any other conversation on this item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We still have can we talk about the general fund next? Anybody that would like to add comments or have any questions of staff at this time?
If nobody else has any comments, I have some. I am going to make a motion that we approve the manager's budget with the budget changes enumerated on this additional handout. with the following amendments. And I'll hand those down to you. Here's one for Megan. I would like to reduce the Board of Commissioners' pay to $10,000 and the per diem that we receive in addition to our pay by 25%. I think it's important that we start with the Board of Commissioners. Implementation of budget reduction should start at the top. I propose that we reduce the county management staff by 1 deputy county manager position. Between the county manager and 2 deputy county managers positions, approximately $500,000 is expended per year. The county, like many governmental agencies, is top-heavy in administration. It does not appear that the citizens are receiving $500,000 worth of work product from these 3 positions. 1 deputy manager receives $150,000 in total compensation. This money could be better spent on several deputies or new teachers or teacher assistants. I propose to amend the budget to decrease the arena budget by $278,721. Our current budget proposal has an increase on this line item of $78,721. This increase should be deleted and the budget reduced by an additional $200,000. Other than the fair, the management company receives all revenue from the arena, and the county subsidizes this facility and events with an additional $900,000. County management appears satisfied to subsidize the arena and the management company with almost $1 million, and that's not satisfactory to me. I would like to propose that we reduce our combined travel expenditure line items to no more than $200,000 combined. We should assign priority grades to our travel expenses and budget our funds according to the priority until the $200,000 limit is reached. I propose that we reduce the non-departmental contingency to $900,000. During the 2013 budget discussion, County Manager Mike Downs has stated this has been as low as $50,000 or $60,000 in years past, and this has significantly increased over the years and is simply a discretionary line item in the budget. We have set aside an emergency contingency fund of $5 million. If a needed expenditure occurs mid-budget, it is either a high enough priority that it should qualify for the $5 million emergency contingency, or a revenue-neutral budget amendment should occur. I would like to delete all funding for the County Wellness Center. The county operates an exclusive wellness center for its employees. Employees are provided health insurance, and we have a tremendous health facilities within Cabarrus County. A private wellness center is duplicative and not a top priority for our expenditures when we're looking at the debt that we are. This facility should either be closed or 100% self-funding. I propose that we terminate funding for the wellness coordinator position. This position schedules things like gentle yoga during lunch periods. This is an unnecessary position, and with our debt, it's just not a priority to us. I don't know of any other private entity that has a wellness coordinator. I propose that we delete the funding for the 4 new park hires from 2014. The Parks Department was increased from 46 to 50 employees in the year after we raised taxes 10%. Funding levels should be returned to 46 employees. I propose that we reduce the expenditure to health insurance fund to no more than $6,800 per eligible employee. The county currently spends $8,182 per employee for health insurance. Our school teachers receive a benefit expenditure of $5,435 per employee, and every employee in the state receives that, meaning the difference between the county and state school employees is $2,747. With over 1,000 county employees eligible for health care benefits, the county is spending approximately $3 million more than the state and school systems for similar number of employees. County management can best decide the method for putting this expenditure more in line with our state and schools. I propose that we reduce all funding for the Lomax Farm and Food Policy Council. Between the Small Capital Projects Ordinance and the operation expenses, the county spent approximately $400,000 on the Lomax Farm last year. There were 7 participants in that program learning to farm. We have far too many needs within our school system to be expending $400,000 on 7 people learning to farm. I want to implement the Health Alliance agreement from last year. Last year it was agreed that the Health Alliance would receive an additional $300,000 as a one-time measure to help it adjust to sequestration. The full $300,000 should be removed from its budget. The Health Alliance chose a far nicer facility than what is needed, and it needs to be responsible for its own decisions, not the taxpayer of Cabarrus County. I propose that we remove funding for 4 library positions in the Concord Main Library. I want to be explicit. These positions will not come from any of the outer libraries. This is from the Concord Main Library. In 2010 and 2011, our library system, all libraries combined, had a total of 30 positions. In the 3 years since, our library staff has grown to 44. Funding for 4 positions from the Concord Main Library should be removed. As our recent study shows, our citizens were more satisfied with every aspect of our library system in 2010 when the system had 30 employees than they are now with 44 employees. I propose that we amend the budget to remove the funding for the Midland Library positions. I support this library, but funding of these positions was dependent on Midland completing the Main Street project and funding the library structure. After a visual inspection of the project, one can be certain this project will not be completed in a manner necessitating library funding within the next fiscal year. The county manager has proposed adding several new positions, including a communications specialist, revaluation office assistant, 2 revaluation data collectors, custodian, and 2 landfill operators. My motion will be to amend his budget to remove funding for all of those positions. I want to remove funding for purchase of any new county vehicles other than emergency service vehicles. Information provided states that the county recently auctioned 2 diesel engine trucks with just under 125,000 miles for a very small price. This is unacceptable. Diesel engine vehicles are usable to a far greater mileage than gasoline engine trucks. The county has been irresponsible with vehicle purchases. The county must better prioritize the positions for which a vehicle is required and use the current fleet to meet those needs. There is funding to meet the salary study. I propose that we reduce the budget to delete that funding. Reduce funding in the transportation fuel budget to $190,000. We can see the actual expenses for the last several years are not anywhere close to that. Reduce funding in the transportation budget for auto maintenance to $180,000 on the same basis. My proposal is to amend our budget to reallocate the $1.3 million of capital appropriated to Camp Spencer. Camp Spencer currently has 2 functioning and revenue-producing structures that are scheduled to be torn down and rebuilt at a cost of $1 million. This money should go to fixing leaky roofs in our schools, and we should terminate and reallocate all funding for Wallace Park. $1.8 million has been appropriated to build a new park at the Cabarrus-Union County line. With almost $500 million in debt and hundreds of millions of dollars of additional debt potentially in our future, it is irresponsible of us to fund a new park. And finally, I want to reduce the contribution to the EDC by all of it. Economic development in Cabarrus County is exceptionally important. However, the structure currently being used is not acceptable structure for the Cabarrus County taxpayers. Under the current structure, the Chamber of Commerce employees are shared with the EDC. This structure cannot be maintained for 3 primary reasons. First, the Chamber of Commerce, both nationally and locally, has become a political entity. From a national perspective, U.S. Chamber of Commerce President Tom Donahoe recently said, if the Republicans don't do it, they shouldn't bother to run a candidate in 2016 in speaking of immigration reform. On a series of other political issues and races, the chambers nationwide are using funds to influence races. Even in our own race, you can turn back, and I've included some pictures whereby the chamber makes a blatant endorsement of one of the Cabarrus County Commissioners on its official Facebook page. And I've included those pictures for the record. Tax dollars cannot be provided to an entity that's so closely tied to political issues. The second issue with respect to that funding is just 2.5 years ago, the Cabarrus Chamber had mismanaged its budget to the point it had to sell its facility and lay off employees. Putting an entity with such recent financial struggles in charge of several $100,000 of county funding is troubling. And finally, information provided has been that the Chamber uses the EDC funds to subsidize chamber activities and expenses. It is very concerning that taxpayer funds could be misused to subsidize a private entity, and this is particularly troubling in light of the recent financial struggles of the Chamber identified in point number 2. So I make a motion to approve the budget as provided with the changes in this sheet with the following with the amendment stated.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
How much time does staff need to look this over? Just throw it on them all of a sudden is sort of pretty fast and unexpected, I assume.
Well, I didn't throw it on them all of a sudden. I've been talking about this since October with them. I did a whole presentation in December about it, and instead of choosing to pursue a dialogue about it, they instead had a special meeting in April whereby they went and said to make half of the reductions that have already been made, we would have to close down the libraries and the parks and whatnot. So I diligently pursued a conversation with them, and they chose to play games instead of pursuing a real budget discussion. And so here we are tonight.
Well, I don't have no problem with most of what's in this, to be honest with you. Somewhere along the way, we got to start cutting gubbit and quit spending money like it grows on trees. You know, there ain't no money tree in the base of this building. But I would at least like to give staff an opportunity to look through it. I think I will probably second this, but I'd like to give them an opportunity to look through it. I don't agree with it. There's a couple things on there I maybe wouldn't do, but, you know, I want them to give us some feedback on it.
Well, there is a motion. I was waiting to see if there was a second to open it up for discussion. No, you didn't second it.
No, I said I want staff to, look, I want to see I want to have a discussion on it before we get a second for it.
Well, we need a second in order to discuss it, but it can die for lack of a second. So,
well, if that's the case, I'll make a second on it.
okay, there is a motion and there is a second, so I will now open it up for discussion. This is the first that I've seen of this, this document. So I'm not going to vote for something that I haven't had a chance to look at and that staff hasn't had a chance to look at in detail. I understand. I'm just, nobody else was keying up, so I thought I'd key up real quick.
There's very few things. There's nothing in here that will basically hurt the taxpayers of Cabarrus County, I don't think. It'll save them a little money in the long run. Mr. Pilkington is here. Didn't you tell us the other day that 49% of your budget went to illegals? I believe I remember you making that statement, but
I'm not sure in the context you're talking about. It depends on it's in clinical services where we primarily serve illegals, and none of those funds are provided by the county in any way.
well, I just remember I thought you said your 49% of your budget went to provide for illegals, and I didn't know how much of that was, well, the end of that was from the county or not.
Our clinical budget is about $6 million of an almost $20 million budget. And that clinical budget does primarily serve a large portion of people who would qualify as illegals. But again, none of that money comes from the county to pay for that.
Where did it come from?
It comes from we operate a dental program. We pay for it with the excess revenue we generate from that. And the clinical services also generate some revenue from Medicare and Medicaid. And we just take a loss a lot of years on our services.
How you take a loss when you don't make no money?
Well, that's the problem in that, as I said, 2 years ago, the county decided they would not fund any clinical services. So there's the problem.
But you don't produce enough funds to pay for all of the benefits that you give out to illegals, correct?
That's correct.
So you get your money from where?
We get it from other programs that generate revenue within the department, such as international travel, such as dental, and other services like that.
But you also get Medicaid and Medicare.
And we get Medicaid, too.
Medicaid, which is
yes,
from the taxpayers.
Yeah, correct.
Chris or Steve, do you want to chime in at this time?
Well, As you said earlier, this is the first time that I have seen these proposals, so I've not had an opportunity to adequately study them. There are some things that, just starting at the top of the list, I would question, decrease the arena budget by $278,728. As best I recall, when those operations have been explained numerous times in the past, it has been very, very clear that that's what we have to do in order to keep the facility functioning and be available for these other purposes. So we would have to look at what exactly does that mean. Reduced travel expenditure line items, the report that we've gotten back on that, or certainly in my conversations with various departments, are that the majority of that money is for training opportunities, certification opportunities, that in order for employees in various departments to remain certified in their area of expertise. If they do not do that, then we will incur additional expense by having to hire outside agencies to come in and represent us in those transactions that require certifications. So, we could go down the list on all of them. Delete all funding for the county wellness center. The wellness center, I think, was put in place to help us save money on health care expense, and the reports that we have received, and I know we had an extensive report in our planning session, not this past year, but the one before, and certainly the indication has been that the money that we spend on the wellness center actually saves us money in insurance cost. The wellness coordinator certainly goes right along with that, and I think the county has been very successful in its efforts to reduce our health care costs by instituting some of these wellness programs. Anybody that I have heard talk about in the healthcare industry in recent years has placed emphasis on the preventive aspect of health problems and the things that we can do to prevent us from having these problems and having the expenses. So it's just a simple, to me, business decision. We spend money to save money. I would certainly not be supportive of increasing the amount of the health care expense that county employees pick up. We have eliminated any cost of living increases for employees in this budget. We have eliminated any merit increases in the budget. So if we were to institute this policy, then we would in essence be cutting the pay of every employee the county has. I don't think that's going to be beneficial for us in keeping good people that we have. There are too many of these to discuss one by one without doing some additional study on them. So I certainly would not be in favor of them based on the amount of time I've been able to give them so far.
Going down the list, if we, I'll start from the back. I'll go up the list above that. I know that there was discussion in the past about the Wallace Park to delay that project for the mere fact of how much that was going to cost. I distinctly remember, being on the board for 3 years, there has been discussion about delaying that project for the mere fact of how much it was going to cost total and how much it was going to cost additionally each year with the employee cost and the maintenance. As far as the new personnel additions, the ones that are listed here, I don't have the other full list. It's somewhere in our packet. But, there is still additional personnel allocated for EMS and some of the other departments. So that's not removing all of the new personnel request. The library positions at Midland, I know that we have been committed to that project in Midland and want to move forward with that. I just know that that's not going to open this year, in this fiscal year. So, I'm not sure that we should budget for positions for a library that's not going to be open in this fiscal year. The Health Alliance, I expressed my concerns about that at the workshop meeting in regards to the one-time funds that were supposed to help cover the gap of the Medicaid funds. As far as the health insurance for the employees, I don't think that this proposal is requesting that each employee pick up an additional cost. It should be up to the county management to shop around and find a better deal. As we can see with the numbers, that our insurance is far more expensive, and we are supposed to have the wellness center that should help with that, but it apparently is not. As far as yoga programs during the day, I don't think that that's appropriate. The contingency funding, 2 months ago, we were in a meeting where we were going to have to cut $2.8 million worth of services of the county, and now we're going to have a $10.8 million surplus. So there is over budgeting within the budget, and I think that bringing down those contingency funds, that does not affect one person in particular. It just brings our budgeting in line. As far as the travel, I do agree with reducing the travel fund. I know that we have an employee that attends a conference in Las Vegas every year, and I just don't think that that's appropriate. And really, that just kind of hits on the highlights.
What's the actual amount that's been cut off of this $209 million budget? The last budget presented?
The adopted FY14 budget was $213,461,012. The FY proposed was $209,684,590, but it has been reduced a little bit. The reductions are $3,776,422 are the current reductions made to the budget.
Could anybody explain to me why that on April the 15th, we had a special meeting, and in that meeting, it was told to us that if you cut $2.8 million out of the budget, you're going to have to close all the parks except for Frank List. You're going to have to lay off all the library help. You're going to have to close up half the county. That was $2.8 million. Now we're able to cut $3 million off. We got $10 million left over. But on April the 15th, and I went back and looked at the video today. It was $2.8 million that we were having to cut all that stuff out of in April, on April the 15th. And I'd just like somebody to explain to me how that worked out that way.
I don't have the 5-year plans in front of me that was from that presentation, but I can look at the ones that are actually in this budget document. And when we met on April the 15th, we had already made reductions to the budget in somewhere of the range of $2.6 million plus $2.6 million in operational expenses, a little over $1 million in debt service, $477,000 in contingency, and between the arena and the Health Alliance are roughly $300,000. So those reductions were made prior to the additional $2.8 million was going to be necessary to be reduced.
But what's our fund balance right now?
fund balance that's expendable.
Yeah.
You transferred your excess fund balance over in your February or March meeting.
In other words, how much, what is the funds we have right now that are unassigned? Wasn't it 8 million something dollars?
Yeah, it was somewhere right around there. But they said that.
After you made the
It hasn't
$29
been
million
audited yet.
transfer, there was nothing left. The projections of coming up with $10 million are projections of how this year will end. The year is not over yet.
With $8,866,588.
Of that $10 million projection of how the year will end, $1.5 million was sent to RCCC.
Yeah, but I'm saying, though, that the current estimate of fund balance available 6/30/14 is $8,866,588, according to y'all's sheet.
That's what we project. It hasn't happened yet.
So that could be zero.
I doubt it.
Some of that, excuse me, in the original conversation tonight, we also removed public safety radios and the chiller for this building out with intentions of funding those projects through the capital reserve, which this money would be in. If you follow your policy at the end of the year, anything over, it automatically converts to capital reserve, anything over the 15. So we have addressed a lot of these. We have met with Commissioner Osterreich several times on these, so I don't want to get the message that we ignored you, because we haven't. We met with you several times. We've addressed these. I know Ms. Dubois has answered a lot of these questions, and some of these are some of the same ones that have come up before. We can go back through it and address these. We can't answer them tonight. There's just no way. I'm not even sure tonight if Commissioner, if you have a number on here, because in order to pass the budget, you're going to have a tax rate, and I don't know what these equal. So we would have to go back and reduce it and see what the tax rate is to even fund this. So I'm not sure what that number is.
I don't think that it would be appropriate to reduce taxes at this time. I think that we should take the money that we save in this budget and put it into schools. Commissioner Morris, in our April meeting, you were heavily concerned that we didn't have enough money going into the roofs, and I haven't heard a word about that since. And now here's an opportunity to actually work on that passion of yours and prioritize the schools and fund the roof reductions. And what I'd like to do is take the reductions in our budget and do what we said that we were going to do, which is prioritize the schools and fund the maintenance items that they have. And every dollar that we fund there, we don't have to borrow. And that is what a fiscally responsible government does for its people. It figures out what it doesn't have to expend so that it can use those money on its top priorities and not borrow the money. And we haven't done a very good job of that, which is how we're $500 million in debt as a county.
Just to make sure I have your motion that you stated and that you seconded was to approve a 70-cent tax rate with the county manager's budget amended based on this handout. Is that, I just want to make sure.
Based on his, this spreadsheet that we had up earlier, because this is the first amendment to his original.
Okay.
Using this as the source document, amending it with the handout that I have. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there any other discussion? I'll reiterate that this is the first time this was handed out, and it would have been nice to have had this available prior to public comments. So if anybody wanted to make a comment on any of these, they would have had the opportunity. But I didn't have it in advance until you handed it out tonight. And we've had work sessions in order to produce information, and really very little information was brought forward for staff to be able to look at. So I have a concern that staff hasn't had an opportunity to correctly make any of these changes that you're recommending, so that we can look at it in a budget format instead of a I don't even know, instead of a paragraph format. So, any other comments? Okay, there is a motion and there is a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Aye. I don't know how you voted.
I'm going to vote for it.
Okay, key up so you're... Okay, let's do it again to make sure everybody can hear. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. The budget passes 3-2. Okay, number 7, update on the construction and renovation fund budget and related project ordinance for public safety radio replacements and government center chiller replacements.
That agenda item is no longer necessary since we removed the chiller and the radios. So that will no longer be necessary.
Okay, so small projects, that one's okay. Just to make sure. Okay, G8, sorry. Update the small projects capital fund budget and related project ordinance for the prime farmland project.
That is to provide funding for $125,000 to continue the conservation of land easements. And you funded that last year at $125,000, and this is using the 3-year present value money when they reduce it from the farmland to cover that funding.
Okay, any comments or questions of staff? Is there a motion to be made?
So moved.
To approve?
To approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the revised small projects capital projects ordinance and the related budget amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we have appointments to boards. Chris, this first one you probably want to make. Appointments and removals, Cabarrus County Youth Council. Let's see, let me get it right. Let's see, we need a motion to remove, due to graduation, Stephen Larson, Harrison Allen, Cattell Amakan, Nicholas McNiff, Brianna Meisenhammer, Leslie Porfelli, Tashawn Davidson, and Eric Taylor from the Youth Council roster, and a motion to reappoint Cooper McCauley and Michael Walker to the Youth Council for 1-year terms ending June 30th, 2015, to appoint Sidney Boone and Mason Zagoda to the Youth Council for 1-year terms ending June 30th, 2015, and a motion to appoint Cale Amakan and Destiny Thompson to the Cabarrus County Youth Council for 2-year terms ending June 30th, 2016. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next we have Cabarrus County Tourism Authority. Requested action, motion to appoint Pam Dubois to seat number 1 to the Cabarrus County Tourism Authority for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2017. To reappoint Scott Pageant to seat number 3, Tim Hagler to seat number 2, and Ray Saporowski to seat number 10 to the Cabarrus County Tourism Authority for 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2017, including an exception to the residency provision of the appointment policy for Mr. Saporowski. Do I have such a motion?
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next, appointments to Cardinal Innovations Healthcare Solutions Community Oversight Board. Motion to appoint Kristen Barbie for a 3-year term ending July 31st, 2017 as the citizen/stakeholder representative. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next, Central Line Workforce Development Board. Request a reappointment of Milton Chickas to his position as a private sector representative. An exception to the residency provision of the appointment policy would be needed for him also. The term of Anna Locklear, private sector representative, ends June 30th, 2014. She's unable to serve another term. And we also have that in order to fill the position that Ms. Locklear has held, we have 2 applications. I would make a motion to appoint Tracy Brunt to that position to fill the private sector representative position. So I would make it for all of those, to remove Anna Locklear, appoint Milton Chickus, and to appoint Tracy Brunt. You seconded that? So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I hope I got that one right. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, let's see. We need a motion to reappoint Megan Baumgardner to the District Attorney / Designee position, Edie Moss to the at-large, and Michelle Wilson at-large to the JCPC for 2-year terms ending June 30th, 2016, and a motion to remove Rodney Harrison II, student under 18, from the JCPC roster. Do I have a motion?
So moved. And may I say about Rodney also that...
Second. You second?
I will second.
Okay.
And I'd like to say about Rodney that he has left us, and he was a tremendous young man. I got to spend a lot of time with him, and he had a difficult life and had really overcome that and was a wonderful representative for our community.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next to the Library Board of Trustees. Motion to appoint Carol Schmidt as the Concord representative, subject to concurrence with the City of Concord for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2017, and to reappoint Sue Freeze to the Library Board of Trustees as the Kannapolis representative for a second 3-year term ending June 30th, 2017, including an exception to the residency provision of the appointment policy for Ms. Freeze. Oops. And, wait a minute, motion to remove Anita Talbot and thank her for her many years of service. Do I have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, motion to appoint Scott Wilson to the Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee for an initial 1-year term ending June 30th, 2015. He has been pre-qualified by the Regional Ombudsman also. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. For the Public Health Authority of Cabarrus County, motion to reappoint Dr. Chad Weston as Northeast Medical Staff Representative for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2017. Motion to remove Dr. Alan Cruzel, effective June 30th, 2014. Motion to appoint Dr. Tidra Clater as member of Cabarrus County Medical Society Representative for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Region F Aging Advisory Committee, motion to appoint an applicant to the Region F Aging as a, sorry, wait a minute. Okay, we have a number of applicants. We need to appoint one as a delegate for a 2-year term ending June 30th and an alternate for a 1-year term ending June 30th, 2015. If you will look, applications on file. Ted Drain is a current member. Betty Barnhart is also on the senior citizen. I'm on page 361. And Nancy Woodard. So we have a motion to appoint Ted Drain to the 2-year term. And I'll say Nancy, I don't know either one. Does anybody know Betty Barnhart or Nancy Woodard? No.
She's right back here.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. So a motion, do you want to, does anybody want to make you want to make a motion to appoint her as the, sorry, let me scroll back. Appoint her as the alternate for the 1-year term?
I would be happy to make a motion. I make a motion to appoint Betty Barnhart as the alternate for the 1-year term.
And Ted Drain as the member for a 2-year term?
So moved.
Okay, have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, I think I got through all those as quickly as possible. Commissioners, you have a number of reports. At this time, any general comments by board members? And we do not have, if I don't hear any, we do not have need for a closed session tonight? So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much. The meeting is now adjourned.